This week on Crazy for Legos, I am reviewing the LEGO Space Pinball Machine, which retails for $230 and comes with 2,274 pieces, which theoretically is just about right looking at the parts per piece ratio. But now let's get on to the review. Now, as I said before, this is set number 11374 Arcade Pinball Machine with 2,274 pieces, only one minifigure sadly, and goes for $230 right now. This set released actually exactly a week ago at the time of this recording on July 1st, 2026, which had honestly one of the most lackluster release waves ever, with only 6 total sets, being a Star Wars, a Supercar, and this, and Venom, and something else. I honestly don't remember. Now, this set is honestly the best LEGO playset released, beating the football table and the vending machine, since they actually have the way of playing with points. It's honestly a lot of fun, and it works pretty well, especially considering how this is just a LEGO set, and it's actually really good. One thing I really like about this is that unlike the other game boards LEGO has made, you can play this one purely alone, which is nice since that gives a lot more playability value, especially for people that are like lonely. Honestly, the reason this review is late is purely because I had too much fun playing with it and completely forgot to make a video for last week. It's actually just as good as the real pinball machines, and genuinely, LEGO really nailed the aspect of the pinball machine since it's got a level of challenge while also being extremely fun. Especially since you can get points based on how you do, so you can set a high score, which is one of the most interesting things to me. So it's just an interesting feature that I'm genuinely surprised that they managed to incorporate in. In fact, when I was looking at the leaks for this set, I was pretty much on the edge for this set when I saw how there's actually a play system, that made me pull the trigger, since it's honestly one of the coolest play features I've ever seen. It's surprisingly complex, since the way it works is that there's a rock in the middle of the pinball machine, and you hit that, which launches the rock backwards, depending on how hard you hit it, and on the counterweight on the bottom basically moves the counter. It's actually a lot of fun, and it's one of the hardest ones to hit, because if you hit it head on, then it may come back through the middle, and you lose the ball. So you gotta hit it with a slight angle, which is actually really hard, so it does provide a decent amount of challenge. One thing I do want to point out is how the entire floorboard of it is constructed, since it is honestly one of the most satisfying builds ever, since all you're really doing is just building up walls. And to be honest, the overall building experience was really nice. To be entirely honest though, the way you get points though is kind of a pain, since you have to find a sweet spot between too hard and too soft. Since you hit it too soft, then you won't get any points. But if you hit it too hard, then a piece will come flying off, or the pinball machine will get jammed. So you do have to find a kind of sweet spot, which is honestly pretty hard, because either way, it's still really hard to get points though. Another thing I do want to say is how I like how the scoreboard works. It's a spaceman that the better you do, the closer it gets to the baby spaceman, which is honestly a really fun concept, and I really like how it looks, since it's one of the more fun ways to do it, since if you just want to display the set, you don't have a sort of ugly space tracker in front of you, but just a little cute little spaceman that, mind you, it's also exclusive to the set as of right now, and probably will stay exclusive to be entirely honest. And like, LEGO has been absolutely cranking out all of the spacemans in different colors, and I personally am not complaining, since I love collecting them as much as I can. So that also invites another fan base to buy in a set, which, while it's a cheap way to get extra sales, it's still really nice. Another thing I would like is all of the little details put on the floor. So it's not just a blank black slide, which is just like a real pinball machine, with a lot of nice detailing on the floor, which really results in it being quite vibrant, which is good, since that's where you're looking at mostly when you're playing this, you know? Plus, the way they did it with clips is surprisingly complex, since they realistically could have just used a much simpler way of snot and inverted slopes. But to be honest, this works a whole lot better. So no complaints on that front either. Anyways, the way you play is you put a ball in, pull the weight thingy back, and let go. And hit the buttons to move the pins, and you have to hit the rock for points. And it's really easy to understand, and pretty much anyone can play it. which is super nice. Another thing it has, which I like, is how they have a spot to store your store your ball whenever you're not playing with it, which is something the vending machine kind of needed, since no matter how hard you shake it, the ball won't fall out, which is a pretty nice spot. Also, a really nice Easter egg they had for the set is how you could find a serial number, which was the year 2026, and a set number 11374. Also, there's a bunch of new parts and recolors, like a lot of light violet parts, since they use that as part of the gradient, which works really well as the part for the bumper, and even a new panel just to fit the ball, which is cool. Now, enough of the glaze. Let's get into some of the issues I have with this set, since while it's great, it's not perfect. First of all, one of the smaller issues I have is that the ball can occasionally get stuck somewhere, mostly on the round aspects, purely because of the slight amount of friction, which usually you can just push on the bumper and a bit and they'd fall out. But it is slightly annoying. It like loses some of the immersion, you know? Another thing is that there's not really much of a reference point when you're looking at your points. So you could easily see how much you gained, but there's not really, so, which is kind of annoying. So you can't just tell like, oh, I gained 2 tick points of points. Also, if you hit too hard, you could very easily launch some random part far away if you hit it too hard. But you also need to hit very hard to get points, which I hope you see the issue. Like, if you want to get points, you have to hit it hard, but you also make a launch. Also, I really wanted it so that everything you would do would give you some points. Like going for the green thing would give a bunch of points as it's the hardest. Hitting the round aspects would give a little bit, and then the bumper is giving it the tiniest amount of points. So that way, you're not required to just have to hit the exact same target a million times just to get points, and that'd be pretty boring, you know. Other than that, though, this set is pretty much perfect. Now, the pricing for $230, it comes with just one minifig and one Space Baby, which is very little, but to be fair, the main goal of this set isn't the minifigs, it's the main model. And the main model for $250 is high when you're looking at size. It's a bit small for the price point you're giving, but that's pretty much just because there's a lot of tiny pieces used to make the technical parts of it. So I could forgive it for size, since it's pretty much just used on techniques. So depending on if you actually want to play with it or just display it mostly, which even still, you're still only giving $30 more, since it feels like a solid $200 set. Overall, I'd have to rate this set a solid 9.1 out of 10. So it is actually a lot of fun to play with. And if they managed to get so everything else gave some points, then I would easily bump this set into a 10 out of 10. Well, that is all for my thoughts on this set. I hope to see you next week, and goodbye.